Hodge twins all the time. Old Hodge twins, though, to be clear.
Yes, very old Hodge twins at this point.
Yeah, we're not into that bigotous, deceptive rhetoric. That's not what we're down for.
Not at all, bro. Not at
Oh.
all.
Yep, we only drop truth bombs over on this channel. That's all we do. So it's a late night Saturday night podcast. Saturday Night Live. I should have named it. Dang it! Why didn't I do that? All right. Well, it's Saturday Night Live. Just take that for what it's worth.
Saturday Night Live.
I had a gig on Thursday. Denison worked late on Thursday. As new job, and so we weren't able to do it. Friday had an early birthday celebration for me, and here we are. So we've actually been catching up for a long time behind the scenes. And, now we're doing it in front of you guys. So this one will be cool. We're going to talk about CES. We've done this. It's the Consumer Electronics Show. I nailed it. All right, very good. I wasn't sure on that actually. No, I was. We're going to talk about Consumer Electronics Show 2023. All of the highlights, all the excitement. What's up, Darian, on that notification gang? Once again, I feel like I got some snuffleupagus action going. It sounds a little nasally.
But 'tis the season. 'Tis the season. So
unfortunately so. So yeah, we got a lot of cool things we got to talk about. Denison is going to again share his expertise. I feel like we've really come into a new era of the Catch Up Podcast, and the next season will be starting very soon. But we've really come into a new era, I would say, and that era involves us having in-depth discussion on a lot of things, as we always have. But when it comes to tech, it's kind of some Q&A. I mean, I definitely am much more knowledgeable on this stuff than I ever used to be. And that's in large part because of you. But also I don't know. Actually, you know what? I kind of a very obvious personal reason, but since I'm not in news, I find myself doing the news research that I would do when I was in the news, but on things I want to learn about, not things I have to learn about for the job. You know what I'm saying?
Makes
like,
sense.
yeah, like if I got bored or not, well, if I got, oftentimes I'd just be tired of researching things when I wasn't working in the news. You know what I mean? So I think that's helped, but you've been a huge help, a huge reason for my increase in knowledge. But even still, I think it creates a really good discussion for Q&A between you and I. For me to ask and Leon your expertise and ever-growing knowledge of it as well. And then, of course, as always, if you're new to our format, you guys get to jump in real time and ask us questions during the live stream as well, which we're very appreciative of. So it's a great
we love hearing from you guys.
Yeah, it's a great way to have the two-way conversation and catch up with all of you as well while we're discussing whatever topic we may be discussing. So we want to break down the highlights of CES. It's always one of those things I forget about, you know, because it's right off the top of the new year. You know, it's like, bam, new year, here we go. And I think that would be a fun thing for us to go to one year.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that'd be really cool. I mean, I know it's usually open just for the press, but if I'm not mistaken, I think it was either last year or maybe 2 years ago they started to kind of open it up for a lot of normal people. But yeah, I think I think it'd be really cool. Even though I do hear a lot of like the reporters and people who usually go there say that they usually come back sick because there's so many people.
Oh, actually, I haven't heard that, but well, no, there's something similar in music. It's called NAMM, NAMM. I forget what they call that. I think they call it the NAMM flu because everybody that goes to NAMM comes back sick. And this is all before COVID. I know what you're saying. It was before COVID too, because I did hear that about CES as well, which is kind of nasty. But you know, you're all touching devices, or in NAMM's case, you're touching the instruments and all that kind of stuff. Same that you're swapping germs left and right.
Yep,
Um,
exactly.
you don't think after 4 years of having a podcast, we could get a press pass at CES, bro?
I mean, hey, who knows? We might be able to. I think,
I don't know.
we could show some statistics. Show what
I,
we got.
I've seen
Apply for
crazier.
a press pass.
There is this completely mediocre YouTuber that I watch regularly to get all my racing news from,
Mm-hmm.
and he has IndyCar press passes and like can go to any of the races at any time and go into the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum at any time that he wants.
Wow,
He's
that's
not
crazy.
even he doesn't well by YouTube standards, he doesn't even have that many subscribers. He has like 63,000 subscribers. So I'm
I mean,
like,
that's a pretty decent amount.
I guess for a niche like reporting style channel like that, yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Um, but yeah, I'm like, well, if he can do it, we can do it for sure. So let me go ahead and hit record here. We're gonna intro this again. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Well, one of the things that comes with a new year that we often can overlook, unless you're deeply embedded in the tech industry, is CES, Consumer Electronics Show, man.
Mm-hmm.
2023. So there's always a bunch of really, really exciting things to talk about for the future of technology and electronics. And what makes it great, what makes it a great discussion to have, is because of the very thing that this expo is all about: consumer electronics. It's not what's off in the future. I mean, it is, but it's not about things that are going to change industries from a work standpoint. It can be, but the
Mm-hmm.
main thing that's about is, the future of smartphones. You know what I mean? The
It's
future of TVs, laptops, your consumer electronics, right?
Yep, exactly.
What were we gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, yeah. It's the future of technology in general, kind of. Um,
Yeah, but
uh,
things that are ideally in reach for the average person.
that
Um,
will eventually be in reach for the average
right, right,
person.
right, right, right. Definitely, definitely. So a lot of really cool things come out each year to discuss, to analyze, and that is exactly what we're doing on this episode. We are going to dive in head first
Mm-hmm.
and toes last and discuss all of the highlights from CES 2023. We're going to break it down. We're going to give our opinions on it, uh, and kind of give you guys an idea of what is around the corner for technology. Now, what's
Mm-hmm.
interesting about this is, of course, we've talked a lot about Chat GPT. This continues to be a main talker, uh, even over a month after its release. You see it everywhere. I've seen it in I've seen it literally in every main piece of media that I consume.
Yeah,
They brought it up somewhere, which is
yeah.
crazy. Most people don't directly invoke the name because they can't remember that's Chat GPT, but they're like, well, with new AI these days, and that's what they're talking about is that
Yeah.
one. So obviously we've talked a lot about that, but there's so many other things that are also happening in the technology world. Um, so we got a lot we want to talk about, man. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So what happens when you get a late night Saturday night convo, man?
Uh-huh. You change it up a little bit.
I just feel like I need like a hot toddy or something, man. Gravelly voice action. I sound like Chad Kruger from Nickelback when I was singing at the gig tonight.
Really?
I'd be like high notes and like normally I'm like ah right, but now I was like
Uh-huh.
ah.
You were
Like,
struggling.
yeah, I had some gravelly voice action going. Even sang some Creed to mark the occasion, bro.
There you go.
So, yeah, man, let's go ahead and run the intro here. 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everybody? I'm John,
And I'm Dennison.
and this is the catch up. Boom, boom. Mm, 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 mm. uh, uh, uh. uh, do, 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 do. Man, I was thinking about that OG theme the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, 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 boom. Damn, that thing, that bass was grooving,
It
man.
was good, man. It was
That
good.
wasn't,
It
that,
get you going.
yeah, that was a pre-made loop I downloaded. And but that thing was grooving, man. I was like, wow. Okay, anyway, here we go. Three, two, one. Before we fully dive into this topic tonight, I want to remind you guys the three best ways that you can support the show. Number one, if you're listening on the audio platforms, remember that you can jump in real time with us on any of these discussions as we have them. We go live Thursday nights. This night was an exception due to scheduling conflicts. But no matter when, you will get notified if you're following us on Facebook or on YouTube. So hit the link or go just search our podcast name on either platform. Follow us, subscribe. And like I said, jump in the discussion with us in real time and let us know your thoughts. We get to have a two-way conversation, and we've had several good episodes become great ones because of that exact thing. So please let us know your thoughts. And yeah, like I said, jump on these live streams. Number two, leave us a rating and review wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. There's some form of that. Sometimes it's a like button, sometimes it's stars. Let us know what your thoughts are on this show and the episode, especially if it's positive. We want to know. Every review helps us continue to grow, and it tells the algorithms to share this show with more people. So that will really help us out as you react to it. So please do that and let us know what your thoughts are. And number three, go to our shop page. Wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching is linked. We have a temporary host over on Etsy, and we can get, or you can get, any hoodies, beanies, long sleeve t-shirts, hats, and other merchant apparel, all at a fair price, all quality. I have some right now. I'm not wearing it, but I should be because it is comfy and it looks so good. And that will help us support us financially. Because it does cost to host and run this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you would be doing us a huge favor and you'd be getting something pretty cool out of it yourself. So, with all that out of the way, let's jump into it, man. Let's talk about CES 2023. Where do you want to begin?
You know, I think we can start with displays because I think there's been some pretty interesting things out there that happened in CES, and I think displays are always kind of one of the things that most consumers kind of think about in general, right? Everybody loves cool TVs and stuff like that they got going on, but it goes much more beyond that, right? So I'm gonna throw out one that I think is pretty cool this year. So Samsung Display.
Okay.
Now, so it's kind of like a different company than Samsung. It's still technically owned by Samsung, but this is Samsung Display.
Yeah.
Showed off a bunch of new foldable concepts of not phones, but essentially, displays, right? Foldable displays that they could use in like tablets and phones. What was really cool about this, right? Because we already know we've got folding phones, you know, whoop de doo. I mean, it's still really cool, and I think it'll be really really cool one day when if we can get a folding phone on the podcast. But um,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
it but it's something that has been kind of we already knew about folding phones and stuff like that, and CES is all about the bleeding edge,
Yeah.
and Samsung is probably one of the best when it comes to um just folding displays, right? And so yeah,
Sure.
there's this great video here, and one of the coolest things about it is, right, so you've already got this cool folding tablet as you see here, where it's kind of doing a little bit of a hamburger going on,
Yeah.
or I guess that would be a hot dog, wouldn't
Uh,
it?
hamburger. Yeah.
Is it a hamburger?
I think it's longer that way.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's a
Yeah.
hamburger.
Hamburger.
So, so yeah, you've got this one, but one of the cool parts about this, of course, you get just it's a big old tablet that you get to fold now, right? And we also have, I think, there's a couple of laptops done from Lenovo that do something similar to this, where it's essentially
Yeah.
it's a big old laptop, it folds, and you got your keyboard and stuff. So that's really cool. But one of the other things that's really neat about it is I saw that they also have they have a display that not only folds like this, right? But you'd unfold it and then you also extend it. So you can
So it'll
extend
slide
the
out like that.
no, so let's see. So it would be like actually, so it would start off as a hot dog, right? So it would start off like this, right? So you open it up, and then you're like, you know what? I want a bigger screen, and you just roll it out a little bit more.
Wow.
Yeah,
Where's the screen coming from?
it's rolled in. So it's a rolled. So essentially, the display is rolled in on itself, and you just
Wow.
roll it out.
Who's doing this?
This is Samsung Display who's
Okay.
created all this. So this whole, as you see right here, this whole this whole spot that they have here is
Yeah.
all like different display concepts that they've created.
And
Uh,
I know it's kind of because I'm pausing a video basically. By the way, if
mhm,
you're listening on the audio, this is another great reason to jump on the live streams with us, or
mhm,
watch them. That we leave them up for you to rewatch,
mhm.
so you can still get some value out of it. We
Exactly.
we add visual aids all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
This type of stuff, it's very necessary. But I'm thinking what we're looking at here is some form or example of what you're talking about, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, for our audio listeners, just to give you a good better context, right? Think of your smartphone, right? Think of your display. We're just going to go with the rolling portion first, right? So think of your display. Think of if you just grab the side of one side of your smartphone and you just started to like pull it, and then the screen continued to grow from there. That is what we're talking about when it comes to like one of the cool features that Samsung has. Now think of being able to roll that out, right? But then you also technically have it to where you can fold that screen itself, say down, um, or even like you had almost like you had two displays together connected, but there's it's all one screen, and you fold it inward. So just think of it that way. So yeah, let's say you take it out of the hot dog position, right? So
Right.
you unfold it, and then you grab that one end. We'll say it's your right end or whatever like that of your screen, and you roll that bad boy out. So that's what we're kind of talking about, just to give you a little bit of a word description of what we're seeing here. And it
Yeah.
actually, I think, Johnny, if you played through a little bit more of this, we'll probably see some of those different concepts. But yeah, so there's actually they just rolled past a display that was like a trifold, which is really cool, right? So it
Yeah.
was kind of like an accordion style display, which is really neat.
Yeah.
Um,
Want me to
and
keep going?
all Yeah, exactly. And all of these are just really cool ways that we could kind of see. Oh, see, there we go. This is a perfect one where it's showing that the display is rolling out, and then you get to fold that too, which is
How is
really,
that
really cool.
possible?
So it's I mean think about it, right? These are OLED screens. So if you pause it real quick, um, but yeah, if these think about it, these are OLED screens, so that means they're like paper thin, right? And so if you have one half of the screen,
Yeah.
you can fold that guy. You're good to go. Don't
Yeah.
have to worry about that. You have another half that is also rolled up, right? On like a spool or something like that. And all you're doing is just pulling that bad boy out, unrolling it like you unroll a foot by the foot. um, and
That screen goes on and on, man.
exactly, and then bam, you're good to go. So that's one of the cooler things about it, right? It's showing like that we are not done with what we can actually do with foldable displays.
Well, that is mind blowing. I could be wrong, and this could just be the sample as a way to highlight this screen that will roll out, right? But
Mhm.
it looks to me, and this may not be evident on the live stream, it could just be the angle. It could be a number of things, but it almost looks like that section of the screen has a higher contrast than the rest of the screen, you know? Um, that
Which
could
one?
just
Which
that could
section? The
the
rollout one?
yeah, the rolled out part.
Oh, I think
Um,
it's just because it's slightly folded.
yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah, it could
you
just be the angle, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, this is amazing to me. And the fact that even something like that is hard for me to wrap my head around, that something that is glass, right? Essentially.
Well, these displays aren't glass. So your whole display itself, right, isn't it's not glass. It's more like it's got more of a plasticky coating over it. So there is
Okay.
no glass here.
Okay.
In this iteration at least. I would imagine though further on, I mean Samsung does have technically a very very thin foldable or bendable glass that they have been working on for years and they already have it in their foldable smartphones.
Sure.
Um so again technically right eventually you'll get displays that will probably even have glass on top of that and then you'll be able to do all this cool stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so this is mind blowing to me. What would you use this for other than saying that you can do it?
That's the cool thing. I don't know of a specific use case. I think one of it one of it is that you can have a tablet, right?
Mm,
Um, that is because I'm gonna this is a what we're seeing here is actually a pretty big display, but I'm gonna even say something smaller, right? So let's say it's a tablet the size of your phone, right? So it starts off folded the size of your phone, and then
mm,
you unfold it and you're like, okay, cool, that's a pretty decent size of display right there, just
mhm.
unfolding it. But then let's say we want to make we're watching something, right? And we really want to get the most picture that we can.
Yeah,
I can pull that bad boy out.
right.
So not only did I have, when it's folded up, the size, a screen at the size of my phone, but then when
Mhm.
I unfold it, it gets a little bit bigger, right? Because it's almost like having two phones. Um,
Yeah.
when it comes to display surface area. And then I want to roll it out a little bit more, get even more there. I can see this as almost something that would be amazing for like a portable monitor situation, right? So say if we want to do the podcast on the go, right? I can go
Yeah,
ahead and grab my display out my bag, plug my stuff in, I'm good to go. I already have all
right.
the stuff that I need, right?
Right. So yeah, you could have absolutely everything that you need, but in a more compact style. And like you said, you could have like, man, Kevin Gates wouldn't know what to do, man. He got two
Yeah,
phones all in one
exactly.
spot. One, yeah. Um, so let's see here. I got some comments. Catherine is jumping in, and so good to hear from you. I got a couple of things to thank you for, and one thing to reply to you on, and I am going to get to that as soon as we are done with this podcast. But I really appreciate it. Um, but let's see. She says here, can this screen be mounted on a wall and wrap a column, or go from one wall through the corner to the adjacent wall? What's the size limitation? I can see some amazing architecture, museums, sports bars. My mind is spinning with design ideas. Those are awesome ideas. I
Yeah,
I know,
those
like, for
are.
this exactly what we're talking about here. I mean, this is um more like tablet size kind of stuff, but I'm sure, I mean, for the future, those are amazing ideas. And
Oh yeah.
just think about even going above and beyond with that. You know how a lot of times, in fancy places, they make an entire wall just a screen, right? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Well, what if you make that screen out of OLED and it can wrap around the corners and everything, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um,
Or even have like a column, right? A column usually uh usually in different places they'll have like a column, then it has a couple of TVs mounted on it. You just have one big display wrapped around the whole thing. So yeah, like I think that's a these are great ideas in general.
Mhm. I agree. I really love the ideas of how you could use this in a, I guess you would almost say like a commercial use like that. But
Yeah.
even like, you could put that on displays for museums, like she was mentioning, and
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I do like the sports bar idea as well. That's a great, really, really great application there.
yeah,
You could use this also for fast food venues, right? Um, I do also, it could be great for people who just want to it this is such a um different thought process, but you could even do it for like people who wanted to, because the biggest part about these folding displays, right, is that they can be foldable. And eventually that can also make them more portable.
sure,
So you could almost put on like a whole cool lights show concert, right, with these displays, right? Think of like just massive ones, right, that you're carrying around, you plop down. They're easier to transport because you don't have to worry about like anything breaking or whatever like that. You pull them out, you snap them into place or whatever like that, and then bam, now you've got your whole concert venue essentially with screens and all ready to go without having to have dedicated pieces of hardware always there.
yeah. Or, um, no, I love that. I was thinking about this too, and of course, this would be more flex than bend, but I mean the principles are the same, of course. Um, you're at like executive suite at Daytona International Speedway,
Hmm.
and you have screen wrapped around you in the shape of the track,
Yeah,
and
that'd be awesome.
they have like a 4K camera in the center of the track that's 360, and then like if I'm facing this way, I just see in front of me what the cars go by as if I were just looking at that part of the track. But you could also just follow it all the way around on the OLED, right? That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah,
Or you
yeah,
could have, to your point with concerts too, like 360 concert experiences. Like you're right in the middle of the crowd, you know?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, Catherine, these are great ideas, and really and truly, when it comes to like limitations, it's the sky is the limit. Really and truly, it's the creation of these flexible displays are um incredibly um like there's tons of applications that can be used for commercial use. Of course, since this is CES, it's all very much consumer based, and most consumers think of tablets or phones or something similar to that. But yes, truly, the sky is the limit. There's not that much um, of a limitation. It not really,
Yeah.
because these OLED panels can be um, stretched out pretty well. Now, I
Mm,
will say, I guess if I am thinking in the terms of limitations, there may be a durability standpoint there, because as I talked about earlier, these don't technically have um, at least in their current iteration, they don't have glass on them. So you lose a little bit of that protective layer because plastic things are softer, right?
mm,
So there is that also that possibility of like if you put a fingernail up to it, it could leave an imprint there. Um, but that gets better over time, of course, and at
yeah.
the same time, um, from the people that I've heard and seen with the phone application of these foldable displays, they actually have said it's gotten pretty good to where you don't really notice that plasticky feel. Like you don't feel it. It's not that first generation product. These are, far more like fourth, third
Nice.
generation products. So
Sure. Do you, I mean, do you foresee malleable glass like that in the future that could? rotate and do all those things?
I feel like we are very, very close to that.
Yeah,
So I do think that is a possibility there. I think it's just right now everything is still very new. Like I said earlier, technically Samsung does have bendable glass, but it's not the top layer. It's actually within the part. It's a structural component that is used
yeah,
within the displays to make it um, a little bit more rigid, right?
sure.
Because like I said, these displays are paper thin,
Yeah,
so it's really easy for them to bend and stuff like that. And so you
sure.
kind of want to make sure you have some more structural components behind there just for durability's sake.
Right. It really is interesting to me too how Samsung and LG, but still I would say mainly Samsung are really the reasons this is progressing, you know.
Hmm.
This technology is. I mean, without them, we wouldn't be hearing much about this, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, the other manufacturers aren't really doing this kind of stuff. Of course, Samsung has been an industry leader in a billion different things for a long time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Exactly.
as has LG, as has LG. So that really makes sense. Darian's chiming in the comments here. Good to hear from you, man. He says the folding display concept would really come in handy. Back when I was working at McDonald's, I was over changing out the displays called POP at the time,
Mm.
where I'd have to I get pop where I'd have to manually shift things around on the menus to reflect the current products and being pushed and save a lot of time and money over time. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Yeah. Exactly.
and actually, I've seen digital displays at certain restaurants, of course, but I think, to Darian's point that he's making, you could have, sometimes you walk in and if you walk in on the entrance and the order kiosk is 90 degrees rotated, right? You
Hmm.
can still see part of the menu where you walk there if it's flexible screen,
Hmm.
But if you have new menu items or specials or all those kind of things, and you could slide out, roll out more screen just by moving it out and then put that up on the display, that would be a game changer for that for sure.
Yeah. It would be.
Or you just have a full on cylinder for self order kiosks and you can walk up at any angle. And based on where you touch it, that's where you can order your food, right? That'd be
Yeah,
amazing.
it would be. It would be incredibly innovative as well as just incredibly helpful because then at that point, right, you could even have it to where there's multiple people ordering on that one cylinder,
Yeah, exactly. I love all
different
these
parts.
thoughts that are coming out. You guys are definitely, you know, putting the creativity to use here for what could be done with this. This is awesome.
Yeah.
You want me to keep progressing here? Was there anything else
Yeah,
you
yeah,
wanted to
yeah. There's. I think there's one more concept here that I wanted to kind of show everyone on here. Of course, see, there's that big tablet essentially that we were talking about a little bit earlier, where it's
That's
literally just a gigantic unfold, which is
which
really cool.
I like to have a tactile keyboard personally.
I
Um,
do too.
and I know that they have pretty amazingly. Some of these touch screens can give you feedback to make it feel like you're touching a keyboard, which is I mean, it's all based off vibration, right?
Yep. Yep.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
But um, if you could put something in here that has the processing horsepower of the laptop I'm using right now, I would absolutely just take that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it'd be amazing. It's incredibly portable. I mean, I've
Yeah,
also heard of some of these displays, or at least the thought process of essentially getting that tactile feel of having like kind of an ultra thin type of keyboard that you can just like snap on to the bottom portion. So
yeah,
whenever and then that portion of the display turns off, right? And then now you have it snapped on by magnets, right? And you
mm,
can type on something that's like that, and then whenever you're done, you just take it off, and then bam, that portion of the display turns back on, and then you can use it for whatever you need.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love that. And I love that the space above the keyboard, you could customize however you want it, do whatever
Mm-hmm.
you need to put there. There's way more customizable and usable space. Think about, sorry, I'm going to go back here. Let's say I was using Studio One, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I mix and record and produce all of my music. I could have in this area where you see the mouse moving, all of
Mm-hmm.
the faders, all of the leveling, all of the EQ could be down here, and all of the audio waveforms are up here. You know,
Yeah.
that's an extremely usable way for creatives and musicians to do that. Now, also, so you're doing video editing with like Adobe Premiere or something like that, you could have all of the timeline, the video timeline, where you drag and drop what's being shown on the screen down here,
Mm-hmm.
and then all the actual video is up here with the effects and all that kind of stuff. That's very usable.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. Or even if we're doing like say a live stream on YouTube, right? We could even have it to where it would be, our preview window could be at the top there, but then we also have our comments coming down on the bottom portion. That makes it a little
yeah,
bit easier for us to kind of see that stuff.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's very cool. Okay, so keep moving here. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
well, how you gonna not touch that?
I know, I know. It's one of those things where it's like, ah.
Right.
So this is just kind of similar. Oh yeah, so this one's really interesting. So as you saw there, right, you have it to where it opens up, kind of like if any of you have seen like the Galaxy Folds, um, normally, right, you can undo it, kind of like as you saw right here, where he's just unfolding it, right? But then you have the ability to continue to fold, which feels weird,
Yeah.
but it kind of gives you that point to where it's a weird thought process, but I would imagine that one of the biggest things that they wanted to try to go for when it comes to this is that sometimes you want to unfold your phone, right, to get that bigger screen, but then at the same time, you also kind of want to go a little bit more one handed on certain
Mhm.
things. Or even if you think about it, right, you could have it to where, um, yeah, you're able to shrink it down to that size, but you still have a screen on the back. You can also use that for like say video games, right? It'd be kind of
Yeah.
cool if you had it unfolded or you fold it all the way back onto the other side. So you have one as that's your display, but you can have all your controls or other back controls on the back of it, and then you can just kind of move that way. So that'd be kind of cool.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot that you could do for screen customizability and all that kind of stuff. Even just yeah, I don't know, just having your phone's display here, but then on the back, um, taking notes. I like how this has the keyboard split here.
Mm-hmm.
But then as he rotates it, it goes away from that,
Yep.
automatically. That's really cool. Yeah. That's just a more efficient use of their technology they were already developing
Mm-hmm.
uh, for that, in my opinion. Um,
Exactly. Let's see.
wow. Even that, I mean, that's kind of freaky to look at,
I know it is. It
like
is.
that.
You've
It's
got
like
a
max out.
whole screen there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the screen split right there, I don't really know what the advantage of that would be. If you're looking at half of a YouTube video on one screen, the other half on the other,
Hmm.
but that could have just been how it was paused at that time or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can kind of see it in a process of, I don't know if you had like a camera or something similar to that on the back, to where
Yeah.
essentially on the other side someone can see themselves. I always
Yeah.
think that's kind of really nice. You get
Hmm.
that opportunity to where someone can see themselves on that other screen, so that way they can better pose or something similar to that. But
Oh man, that's actually kind of fun though. You could play games with people where if you stack the phone out like this,
hmm.
and you could basically play like your average board games. You could play like Battleship, where on this
Oh
screen you
yeah.
see, and then over here they see their battleships, stuff like that.
That would be cool. That would be cool. I like that.
Uh,
That's a good idea.
sorry, Catherine is on the comments here. She says you can hold it with buttons on the back, quote unquote back, right? Back is your
Hmm.
perception, which side that is.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
fingers. and viewing it on the front with thumb buttons. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that is a
So
good idea.
if you could memorize like a fast forward or a pause button on the back and do it with your index finger, middle finger, etc., and then just pause with your thumbs. That's really crazy.
Yeah.
Uh, this is a great question too. So Aaron's jumping in on the comments. Good to hear from you, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually wondering this too, and I just never articulated it. Just he goes, just because I don't know, do you think you'd eventually see fold lines? Not that it's important, but over time, I feel the repetitive bending would create those creases, and I would think that too, being that it's plastic, right?
So that is a current downside to folding displays. Having seen one and used one in person, I will say that the panels themselves are very bright and very vibrant. That if you are looking at it dead on, you don't see the fold lines at all. Um, but of course, if you're looking at it at an angle, you'll see the fold lines. But it's kind of one of those things that you just kind of get used to. Now, as technology progresses, the fold lines will continue to get smaller and smaller. We've already seen that with different types of fold designs that have been coming out with from different companies other than Samsung. Um, that have made the crease, is what it's usually called in like the folding terms,
Yeah.
um, far less apparent, right?
Okay.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest jumps I think that folding displays will have is when you get that fully creaseless display,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I think right now we're just not at that point, but it is something that they are currently working on, and I think will pop up here. I would say probably within the next maybe 5 years or so, if we continue on the trend, uh, the progression trend that we've been at for so long for right now.
I would, and do you mean the pace? Is that what you
Yeah,
mean by that? Yeah. Um,
sorry.
no, no, I was just making sure I understood. Yeah, that to me, because how many times are you going to be looking at your phone or tablet or whatever in perfect lighting conditions to where you don't notice those creases?
Hmm.
Not a reason to just write off the technology for sure by any means, but I think it would be noticeable specifically on like phones and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. Like I said, I only know from my experience. I've been able to touch them and play with them or whatever like that. And yeah, if you're straight on, if you're viewing it straight on, you don't even notice, you don't see it. But yeah,
Good.
it's when you're seeing it on the side, you'll notice it then.
Understood. Okay.
But you do kind of, it is something that I think you kind of get used to after a while, and it disappears. Very
Yep.
similar to like, I don't know, um, hole punch displays, right? So displays that have a hole punch, or for iPhone people, your notch, right? Essentially, you don't notice the notch anymore, do you? It just disappears. It fades into the background.
Yeah.
Um, so
Unless it's
it's
your dynamic island, bro.
Oh
Then
yeah, yeah, the dynamic island. But
that's a major part now.
yeah, but again, it just kind of disappears after a while. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Aaron says that exponential growth graph can only go up. I
exactly.
mean, well, yeah, there's so much possibility for this, man. It's crazy. So, do we want to keep going here? Sorry.
This is probably the last one that we can kind of go over. I think this is the trifold one, so we
Okay.
can click on. If it isn't, then then we can actually move on to the other display thing. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, so there's one that's a trifold that you got there, where you've got a few different folding designs there.
But see, in regard to Aaron's comment, like if you have a graph that's going down with these foldable displays, you can just flip it around really easy, and it looks like it's going up now.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a benefit. This is a
Yeah.
benefit for data
Hey, good to
analytics.
go.
So, okay, here's one. This looks like a Hallmark card that you
Hmm.
got from the premium section
Yeah.
because you waited too long to get somebody a birthday card. Um, yeah. So what would be the benefit? Are these let me ask you this first. Are these comments? Are these concepts?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
they're all concepts. That's why I was saying that it's these are all from Samsung Display, not their mobile division, but their actual display division. So it's
Mm,
not even these aren't even phones or anything like that. They're just technically displays,
gotcha.
literally. They're just putting them in form factors to give you ideas of how you could use them, right? So
Okay.
this
So
looks like a phone, but yeah.
with that said, that goes back to what Catherine's ideas were for something like this.
Mm,
Because you would look at something like that and be like, okay, why would I get that folding phone versus another folding phone or one that could roll out more screen as I extend it, right?
hmm
Uh, and for this would be great for on a large scale in a building, you know,
Yep.
with walls that can be convex in different ways. That's my initial thought with why you'd want something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, I would say so. Yeah, this trifold one that you see here, I think would be a great one for because you first in some ways because essentially like it collapses down kind of similar to like an accordion, right?
Yeah,
um so you have it first shown this way. You can expand it out a little bit more to get a lot more of a kind of a wide screen kind of aspect going on.
yeah,
I can see it really being helpful as like a portable display that you would use. A lot of times, I know there are a lot of people who like having those curved monitors. You can essentially create your own curved monitor in a very short period of time by just,
yeah,
moving it out and bam, it's already folded out for you. But I think there's just, there's a couple of different ways that it can be used, but yeah, I think that's pretty interesting.
yeah. I do too. This is very cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
So we
got the
can,
beast.
yeah, I would say that these are probably some of the cooler ones that they have. They have a ton of
Definitely.
different folding displays and ways, but I would say that's probably the best one. I think
Yeah,
for Samsung's side of it.
cool.
Um,
I dig that. Okay,
yeah.
so where are we jumping on to next?
So I think I wanted to just talk about really quickly the last little display thing that they kind of showed off at CES is um, LG came out with a well, quote unquote wireless TV that they have.
Yeah.
So it's essentially it still has one cord, right? So it's still going to have your one cord for power because we still don't know how to do power wireless power at a large scale.
Hmm.
It's not exactly something that's really easy to do, especially to make sure that people don't get killed. um,
Right.
but so it's still going to have that one cord, but essentially think of like your HDMI ports, your Ethernet ports, your USBs, all being on something else, right? And it's being essentially wirelessly beamed to the display.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that is essentially what the wireless display from LG is. It's that concept of essentially having it to where you have one wire. Now, I think last CES, Samsung displayed something similar to it, but for them, instead of doing actually having an actual like wireless signal being pushed to the TV,
Yeah.
what they did was they just made one single thick cord that essentially just goes straight up.
Okay.
And that has, your power, your display inputs, your Ethernet, all the other things that you would normally go. So
Yeah. Sounds like that thick had multiple C's on it, man.
yeah.
So this is a 97-inch television.
hmm
You can see the way, obviously that's gigantic, but you can see if you look closely around on this image, right? There's this leg, and it looks like they funneled. Uh, sorry, here
The
we go.
cable through there.
Funneled the cable through there,
hmm
um, and that is smart. You know what's funny
Mm.
is I feel like a lot of decisions that are made like that. are things that just should always be done anyway,
Mhm.
And then they're like, well, the whole goal of this thing is to be cordless. So let's go out of our way to hide that cord when it's like, you should have been doing that no matter what.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
but I like that a lot. What other than a clear image,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, not well, yes, a clear image, of course, but what I mean is other than making it look clean, right? Um, what would be the benefits? Why is this such a groundbreaking thing? Yeah, you would have HDMI wireless, right?
Mhm.
From your PlayStation to your TV, and I get, and the thing is, right? So I'm looking at my TV right now.
Mhm.
I have my PlayStation hooked up to it. But that's it. I have is that it? That is it. Yeah, well, and I have my stereo system hooked up to it as well.
Mhm.
Already minimal chords, right? So what is the groundbreaking nature of this?
I think it's the fact that you're pushing so many inputs wirelessly,
Yeah,
and that it works.
it can
Um,
manage all of that in real time with no lag and in high quality.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think that's one of the biggest things that they're trying to push right now. Because again, these are consumer electronics, of course, so these are things that are eventually going to go on sale. For regular people to buy, I think this TV is supposed to be quoted somewhere around $3,000 or something like that. That they want to charge people for. But I think
But
the
will they charge you extra for each adapter that you need?
I mean, I think it's supposed to come with its own kind of like big bar adapter kind of deal.
Okay.
That essentially is going to have all your other where you would plug all your inputs into, and then it would
Gotcha. So
do
it
that.
goes into one bar. That bar consolidates all of that uh, and sends it to the TV.
Yep.
That's really cool. That's a great way to do that.
Yep. Exactly. And
Okay.
because I think it's also supposed to be that's kind of supposed to be where your speakers are going to be like your TV speakers that you would normally have. I think that's where it's supposed to be in those as well.
Oh,
So
okay. Gotcha.
just kind of another method to kind of get everything going. But I think the biggest thing about this is just the pushing of the technology, right? It's you send this out to show everybody, hey, look what we've done. And then that way you can have competition, right? You can create your own competition because someone can come in and say, hey, I saw what you did there, but guess what? This next year, I'm going to be sending everything through wireless or whatever like that,
Yeah.
or whatever. I think in a lot of it comes down to that. Everybody wants to be that one up person for the next CES or something similar to that.
Sure. Well, for this, I feel like there is a definite benefit there of consolidating. I had to get creative with making these cables work, to connect everything and be long
Hmm.
enough and reach and all that kind of stuff. There's actually a slide on my entertainment stand where I could roll if the cables were long enough my stereo all the way out, but
Mm.
it can't because the cables between it and my um, record player are too short.
Hmm.
Granted, this wouldn't solve that because you have to have it directly powered from your record player to the stereo.
Yeah.
Um, unless that bar had a phono output, because there's like some phantom power that
Hmm.
goes and powers, and that's what my record player needs. So if it had that, that'd be really cool as well. But anyway, my point is, I like it. I think they're going to really have to go out of their way with marketing why that is beneficial rather
Yeah.
than, because I think a lot of people would look at that. Well, I don't I just stream everything I watch anyway,
Hmm.
so why would I care about that? But yeah, I think it's beneficial, but I think they're going to have to go out of their way to explain that to the average person.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I think they're for sure going to get the people who just are going to get it just to for bragging rights, right? But I think for sure this is probably one of those products though that is mainly there as a tech demo than anything else.
Yeah, it's interesting because it basically appeals to people. In well, I don't want to say basically, but one of the appeals would be for people that are kind of like me and they aren't fully they still have a DVD player. I use it for CDs. I don't use it for DVDs, but they
Hmm.
still have a DVD player. They still have
Or Blu-ray player.
or Blu-ray, right? Yes. Those type of cable things. Maybe they still watch like Dish or DirecTV or something like that.
Hmm.
And that's funny because that is essentially who this would appeal to, is that kind of person.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I mean, consoles. If you play video games, that's also a thing too.
well, and that's true because I'm picturing myself just having one console and not really caring if I see the cables for that or not. But a lot of people have multiple consoles.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a good point. Um, cool. I like this one, man.
Yeah.
Was there any other ones you wanted to highlight?
For display, no, no. Honestly, I think there's only like one more thing or two more things maybe that I wanted to kind of talk about that I
Okay,
thought was really interesting from CES.
perfect.
The first one was a new VR headset from HTC.
Okay.
So I forgot what the name of this one is, but it's a lot more it's a lot slimmer and more compact of a VR headset than I would say than what we've kind of gotten in the in the previous rounds. Like I have the Quest 2, the Oculus Quest 2, which is
Yeah.
a relatively small VR headset and it's pretty compact. It's pretty easy to use and maneuver and stuff like that. And the cool thing is, it's battery powered, right? So you're not always having to be plugged in. But HTC essentially just released one that's even thinner than um, what they previously had, which I think was the Vive 2 or something like that. And
Yeah.
it's, of course, thinner than the Oculus Quest 2, or I guess technically it's called the Meta Quest 2 or whatever. Um, but yeah, HTC has it that's really, really thin, and it's a little bit easier for you to use. Oh yeah, here we go. So that's perfect.
Yeah.
And it's also, it's battery powered, right? So I think the previous HTC headset wasn't battery powered. It had to be plugged in or whatever like that. You
Oh
could
God.
figure out, yeah, you had to have it plugged in and stuff. So you had to have
Yeah.
pretty
That
long
sounds
cord.
like a tripping hazard, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Good Lord.
A lot of people though would have like they figured out ways to do like a battery pack to it,
Sure.
and then that would kind of work for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you can see here, it's really thin, right? It's the glasses aren't as big. It also has like an an AR component to it, because you can kind of see some cameras there in the middle, that does a really good job of showing the whole your front vision, so that way you're able to use it to where you can keep these glasses on and um, interact with things without uh, like with things like popping up. It's kind of what we've always kind of dreamed of, right? When you see like these cool futuristic cities, right? And people are like doing this kind of thing, right? They're like, oh, I'm looking at the news and stuff like that. um looks like I lost John there. Well, I'll continue on this one, but essentially, yeah, it's being able to uh, view all of that stuff. So that's kind of one of the cool things about the Vive thing. Oh, there we go. He's back. We
Yeah.
lost you there.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure what happened there. Hold on one second. Let me do
Okay.
this.
Yeah,
I
no
want to make
problem.
sure we have. I don't want us to lose any of the recorded audio that we have.
No.
Um, so I'm making sure we have that. Okay, that's set. Now let me start new recording here. And you're there. Okay.
Okay.
And health checks. I was like, I'm not risking this. We've had that
Yeah,
happen
no.
lost all the audio.
We have. It was bad day, bad time.
Yeah, I don't understand why that happens either because I am clearly seen down here that I'm like fully connected to Wi-Fi.
Hmm.
I don't understand why it just kicks me out sometimes. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. It's a strange one.
yeah. Okay, here we go. All right, we're connected. I'm gonna pull that uh, shared screen back up here.
Okay,
Uh,
perfect.
so I missed some of that, obviously.
Yeah,
Uh,
no worries.
but for the audio portion, we'll just pretend I didn't.
Okay.
But go ahead, man. What were you gonna say? Because I see Catherine has a question here.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, no.
Um,
In response to your second one, bandwidth issues, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, anytime that you're running off of apartment Wi-Fi, I feel like there's a risk there. It
mhm,
shouldn't be. I mean, fiber's laid out like fiber's laid out. It shouldn't be an issue.
mhm. But
Um, yeah,
stuff
fiber is fine.
happens, I
But
guess.
what'd you say?
I was just saying, stuff happens. It
Yeah.
is what it is.
But her question was, so you can still see the real world while also seeing a display.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, you can have, different things floating on top of what you would normally see like in front of you if you didn't have the VR headset on. So yeah.
So it's not. It's more AR than VR, right?
Well, it's a dual component. So there's that camera, like I was talking about. So there's a camera like right in the center, right,
Okay.
of the headset, and that's their camera that they use to stitch in the real world, right? And so that's where you get your AR components. But you can essentially not use that camera and just do a full VR experience where it's,
Sure.
whatever.
Dude, I would do some AR. That'd be sick.
Yeah, yeah, no, I would too. I think it would be really cool. I think, you know, I know it's one of those things where I feel like, when we think of futuristic stuff, that's like the first thing that I feel like all of us always think of is like an AR component to the future where, we don't have to worry about a phone because everything is just all AR, right? And you can just pull up whatever you need
Yeah.
from like a HUD or something like that, some sort
How
of
would that be
glasses or
projected?
something.
Yeah, glasses. It'd have to be glasses. Or,
Yeah.
get that chip installed in your brain.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Well, I mean, we already have concepts that are glasses based, right?
yeah.
Where it's an actual glasses. They'll have your prescription there, but then there's also like a tiny display that's going to be that's projected out, so that way you can see it in like
Yeah.
a specific corner and stuff.
They had those. I know we've talked about this before, but those Google glasses a
Hmm.
few years ago, where the idea was for that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But there were privacy
Uh,
concerns. Um, so is that why this is a CNN Best of CES 2023 finalist? As you can see on the image that I happen to select here,
hmm.
um, it's the integration of AR, which for those who don't know is augmented reality, where is the blending of the physical and virtual world. So in other words, one idea theory I had heard for this a few years back was, you have sensors or projectors spread throughout your apartment or home, and you basically uh, create a virtual TV that goes on your wall, and you can watch TV on this fake TV that you created on your wall, make it whatever size fits, right?
Hmm.
And you have a clock and all these kind of things. They're all fake. Basically your entire wall is blank, but you can create it virtually and then take it away when you want to, right?
Yeah.
um and so that's kind of AR side of things. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a very like light dusting of AR. But is that why they're in your mind they're considering this like a finalist for best in show?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think the AR portion is just a cherry on top. I think It's the lightness and the compactness. Like the picture doesn't fully do it justice, but it's because I've actually seen like videos of it. But it's like, it's this device is something about this thick, right?
Mm. Wow.
Maybe even a little bit thinner than that, but where your normal VR device is probably somewhere around this big, or
Yeah.
maybe a little bit bigger, like right here. So
Right.
it's that is this thick, and you have, that's your lenses, that's your battery pack, that's everything that you need all right there. And I think that's the reason why it's such a big breakthrough, is because it's so hard, because the components, because you have to remember, you also have to have a very high quality processor that's going to be able to run all this stuff.
Yeah.
um, so it's being able to compact all of your components so small and so thinly that it makes it to where you don't get that fatigue that you would normally get with a lot of VR headsets, because usually a lot of them too are also very um, most of the weight is in the front.
Yeah.
So when you're moving your head down, like it almost feels like the whole VR headset's trying to pull you down in
It
two.
does. Yeah.
Plus, it gives more fatigue, where this is more distributed around your whole head. I think the
Yeah.
battery pack, if I'm not mistaken, is actually in the back, um,
Okay.
so it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of one of the reasons.
That way, when it bursts into flames, it doesn't sear your face; it just sears the back of your skull.
Yeah.
Uh, no, I think. I mean, that's a great thing. I, when we did VR, um, I didn't really struggle with the cumbersome nature, if you will, of the headset personally. And
Mm-hmm.
I think actually it kind of added to the experience based on the game we were playing, because
Mm.
we were in space. Obviously, we're going to have helmets and full gear on and all this kind of stuff. So it didn't feel out of place necessarily. But
Yeah.
for it to be a more inclusive or, really enveloping experience, yeah, you would want something that doesn't even necessarily feel like it's on you. Um, Man, VR was, I will say, for me, it was very overwhelming from a sensory standpoint, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and yeah, I don't know, just I would do it sparingly personally, but I would be really, really interested in seeing how it blends with the real world, with the AR component. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
know that'd be dependent on what game you're playing and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wouldn't do, bro, I would not play like Resident Evil or or freaking Call of Duty Zombies in my own house,
Oh,
because I take that.
some of the zombie stuff.
Yeah, it'd be way too real. I take the headset off and I'd still be thinking, is there a zombie around that corner? My own house? No. But then just imagine the people walking around with this like in everyday life. Oh my gosh, here's an idea: Pokemon Go. But this time, they're just wearing headsets and they're walking through the real world. That would be.
That'd be interesting.
It'd be more. It would probably make that game better rather than having to walk around with your phone out the whole
It
time.
would be. It would be. You finally get your Pokemon dream. I mean,
Yeah,
hey, it'd be kind of cool.
I'd play some Pokemon Go on
I
that.
would.
Um, cool. I like this. That's really good stuff. What was the last thing you wanted to highlight?
So the last thing that I wanted to highlight, and this is kind of more of a gag thing, I would say, but so Amazon created a thing. I think it's a ring, Sentry robot type deal, where it's like a drone, right? So
Uh-huh.
uh, essentially, what would happen is, say you leave your home, right? Um, and you just want to make sure that you have something securing, and of course you have your ring doorbell and stuff,
Yeah.
but let's just say you wanted someone to also walk around your house. Well, now you can have a drone to do it. It'll just in specific time frames and stuff, it'll just pop up out of its little base and
Uh,
fly around your house, and
no.
make sure that everything is clear. And if it does detect someone that is not supposed to be there or whatever like that, I think you can give it the ability to alert you, and then at that point, you can do what you need to, where you need to call the police or something similar to that.
Here is the ad that they've already created for it.
Yeah.
This guy just breaks right in the home. But then
So
the
yeah,
Amazon drone takes right off.
yeah, so you got your Ring drone that comes right on out, right? It's going towards them.
Yeah, right. Dude's just gonna beat the hell out of that thing.
I don't know. I mean, that kind of creeped me out. If I saw a drone coming towards me, it'd be a little weird.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, until it starts getting some ability to just shock people like R2D2, like while it's running,
Hmm.
that would be the real benefit. I want it to have some self-defense capabilities.
Yeah, that's true. Me too.
Tase people while it's flying around. What's interesting about this, what's especially interesting about that drone to me,
Hmm.
is we know Amazon has been heavily developing drones to deliver packages,
Hmm.
and they've already taken some of that technology into their Ring company. I think that's really cool. You know, uh,
Hmm.
yeah. Catherine says taser drone. See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
There
I
you
want
go.
it to come with a taser or a 9 millimeter, man.
No one's getting in.
Yeah, it just pops them, dude. Um, no, but that I do. I think that's really interesting how, from the standpoint of their drone technology, which again we know they're developing for delivery,
Hmm.
um, they've already taken some component of that and put it in their drone security. And it's interesting because if you just had the Ring sensors, right?
Hmm.
I totally cut you off on this. I know you're going to dive into more of it. I apologize.
No, no worries.
But if you wouldn't even need the cameras necessarily. Like outdoor cameras would probably be great. Indoor
Yeah.
cameras you wouldn't really need if you just had sensors and then the drone would take off and capture whatever's going on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, it's a way to kind of reduce that because you can have your drone pop up and be like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, it gives you that ability to do that. Um,
So
I,
is sorry,
no,
is
no,
this
go ahead.
drone is it recognizing facial features once it goes to the part where the sensor was tripped?
Hmm.
It recognizes a person and then follows it, or how does it work?
I think it's from what I've read, because of course I haven't tested any of this out,
Right.
anything. But I think from what I've read, it's essentially supposed to go to wherever the disturbance is, and then I think yes, it is supposed to recognize if it sees facial features or something similar to that. You can have it do that, but I think one of the biggest things about it is that it's just there to give you that ability to see what's going on,
Yeah.
and then you can control it on like what you want it to do after that.
Yeah. That's cool. I
Yeah.
almost want it to be like more aggressive when it launches, rather than just this little like and it slowly takes off. I want
Hmm.
that thing to get launched like a Trident missile, bro. Just it just starts flying.
It just flies
Yeah.
out and just starts buzzing around.
Yeah, it's like leaning like the robot from the Jetsons, man, just like full
Mhm.
lean like that, going right
Just
at.
full tilt, man.
Yeah,
Just
it's
going
going.
at this person. It's gonna ram the person in the
Yeah,
face.
I want
Get
that thing
out.
4 propellers on it. So as soon as you break in my home, all you hear is that's the launch. And then you hear you're like, "Oh god, dude's got a helicopter in here. I'm out." Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that's kind of funny about this is that the first time set up to kind of get it acquainted with your space is that you have to pick it up and you essentially hold it like a torch and then you walk it around the house.
That's so
So
funny.
it kind of maps everything out so that way
Yeah.
it knows how to navigate properly. Um,
That's
uh,
cool. I like
yeah,
that idea.
yeah.
That's
So that
so
way
funny.
you do it instead of it just getting up and then just and starts running off and then it hits a wall because it didn't know there was a wall there.
It's
um,
it's interesting that you have to do that too, though, because if it can recognize people, don't you think it could recognize the openings versus the walls?
yeah, but I mean at the same time you're also thinking about my thought process on it is that, this is being used at any time of the day or night. If it's, at nighttime, right, and the disturbance happens, I don't think it didn't look like it had a light on it. So it's just gonna, go into night vision mode or something similar to that.
Yeah.
And it's just, and having a map of like where everything is gives
Mhm.
it a better idea of what it needs to do, where it needs to navigate, even if visuals aren't perfect.
Right. I love what Catherine said. I was about to say something similar. She said Roomba RoboCop. It really is kind of like a Roomba. Man.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
so I'm just gonna read this one. Well, actually, I wanted to ask you this. Why did you say that was like a gag one rather than a serious one you're excited about?
Honestly, I'm not super excited about it. It's not something that I would probably buy. Um, it's a cool concept. I just don't see the best use cases for it. I mean, I feel like it's something that's more of like a cool thing to have in your home rather than something that is necessary, I
I
guess.
agree.
You
That
know?
was actually my thought too. I was like, there's so many other ways you could do that. Do you get a more clear image of an intruder? Possibly, yeah, possibly.
Hmm.
But I don't think it's mandatory.
Yeah, like what are you doing? Like
Yeah.
that's my thing. It's like what are you actually doing, or what are you actually getting out of it? So
Potentially scaring off idiots who don't know that small drones exist. Potentially.
yeah.
Well, I had a gag one I wanted to throw
Mm-hmm.
out there. It's a smart toilet.
Mm. Smart
Yeah.
toilet. Okay.
But this is interesting to me because you say smart toilet. Oh, and they're making everything smart. That's really stupid. But I actually think this is a really good. Um, yeah, it's a really good idea. So this sensor, when you pee, it will measure your urine
Mm.
for nutrient levels, hormones, illnesses, all kinds of stuff. Um,
Oh, okay. Interesting.
depends on the brand that you buy, but one of them will get your if you sit down on it, it'll measure your heart rate. I don't know if I need my heart rate measured while I'm on the toilet.
Yeah, it's true. May get some skewed results.
Yeah. Yeah. Depending on how many Takis you ate that night.
Yeah,
Uh, but blood oxygen, blood pressure, which that's kind of wild that can do that through just sitting on it, you
it
know.
is. It is.
But that let's see, yeah. Um
Imagine going to the doctor's office and they say, "All right, I just need you to go and sit down real quick for me.
yeah.
We'll be able
Take
to
your
figure
pants off
out
and
what's
sit
going on."
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um but I think that that's interesting. I think it's a unique idea. There
Mhm.
are a lot of health factors that can easily be measured and quickly be measured through urine.
Yep.
In fact, scientists use, I don't know how many people know this, maybe everybody knows this, but scientists for the last year and a half probably have been using sewage data to predict rises and falls in COVID
Yeah.
infections
Yep.
because they can find traces of COVID in that stuff. Um, so yeah, you can definitely just monitor your health through this. I think it's a really good way. I think it's, to me, if I had to choose between a smart toilet or a smart watch for health reasons, I'd probably pick a smart toilet.
You pick a smart toilet. Okay.
But I don't run, so I get that's kind of the main benefit for people who run.
Hmm.
Um, if you had to pick one over the other. Anyway, I thought that was fascinating. You know,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah. So okay, well, this was a good discussion on this. I have a random scientific thing for you. Did you know that, um, as we know, due to the theory of relativity, that's over 100
Hmm.
years old, time is directly related to gravity.
Hmm.
Our perception of time. That's why, like on Interstellar, and I've heard multiple scientists say this, that Interstellar is incredibly accurate.
Hmm.
And they consulted some of the brightest minds to make sure that what happened in that movie was incredibly accurate. Now, granted, going to a black hole, uh, being stuffed behind a bookshelf, and then transporting dozens of years into the future may not be real. Like the going through
Yeah.
time thing could, but like what I mean is a black hole could serve as a wormhole. Uh,
Hmm.
but anyway, my point is really that it's interesting because his perception of time was changed. Even just that time they go down to that one planet that had huge gravity on it. They come back. They've only aged a couple hours, but the guy that stayed on the ship had aged years.
Hmm.
And so I didn't know this, but anyway, the reason I brought this up, I was listening to a podcast about time traveling and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't know, but back in the late 60s, early 70s, they had a Pan Am flight. They had an atomic clock on the ground. And then they put an atomic clock on a Pan Am flight that I think went from LA to New York, something like that. And that clock moved slower, right? Yeah, moved
Hmm.
slower than the one that was on the ground just by being at 30,000 feet.
Hmm.
So technically, you're aging less, you know,
Yeah.
um, than people around you. That's so wild to me,
Yeah, yeah, no. I mean, it's really really cool, and it truly does serve to kind of show you that it time is less linear than I think what we see or think of when it comes to our brains and how we usually visualize and conceptualize how time works. We kind of normally see it as like a past, present, and future, but time can easily be all of those things at the exact same time. Um, it just depends on your perspective.
man. Yeah, it does. This was a podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's his podcast. I can't remember the name of it right.
Star Talk, right?
Star Talk. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep. And he had Brian Green on, and Brian Green. If you guys ever want to nerd out about science and or physics, then listen to anything by Neil deGrasse Tyson or Brian Green because
Hmm.
they're not only are they incredibly smart, but they're probably among the two best at articulating it for the common man. You know,
Hmm. Not Hank Green, or is it
no,
Brian Green?
Brian
Brian
Green.
Green. Okay,
Mhm.
interesting.
Yep, Brian Green. Yeah, phenomenal. I've listened to several things from him. Actually, several episodes back when we were talking about multiverse theory, string theory, all that kind of stuff, that was where I got from was from Brian Green. That's where I
Okay,
got all that information from. So anyway, yeah, just a random scientific fact to end this
no,
great
that,
episode on.
that's
Um,
cool. That's really
yeah,
cool.
yeah, I thought so too. But I thought we had a great discussion on all of this, and I'm glad we had people jumping in on the live stream. Thank you so much for giving us your thoughts and your perspective on what we were talking about. Add to the episode as always. So if you're
Hmm.
listening on the audio version, remember to jump on over to our Facebook page or our YouTube page. Just search our podcast title and give us a follow or subscribe, and leave us a rating and review. It helps us grow every time you do that. If you want to support us financially, check out our shop and get you some good, clean merch, man. But this was a good bleh. Well, it was a good discussion until I
It
decided
was.
I couldn't wrap it up properly. So, man, do you have anything else you want to add to this?
you know, um, only thing that I really have is, I'll say, depending on your perspective, the future is looking very bright. I think, I always look forward to CES. I think there's always really, really cool ideas that pop up, really cool concepts that pop up. I know we didn't even get a chance to touch on this, but I know a lot of automakers popped in a couple of different things that were really interesting. So, if you ever get a chance to go ahead and check out some of the articles about CES and kind of some of the cool stuff that they displayed this year, and even kind of look forward to next year because they're always being able to we're always gonna be able to see kind of some of the cutting edge stuff like for instance, right, I think it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, maybe But we that's when we saw our first like 4K display, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then eventually it came to the mainstream to where everybody could purchase one, and the same
Yeah,
thing goes with the 8K displays, right? We have those out, but CES displayed it, or really showed it off about you know 2 to 3 years before everything came out. So I always, encourage you, if you're a tech person, or even just kind of interested in kind of like some of the new stuff that is coming out and what we may see on the horizon. It's always cool to check out CES.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
most definitely. We've kind of made this a yearly tradition. It's always, well, it's never failed to impress us. Yeah.
yeah,
So
exactly. Also, one last thing too. Um, I'm gonna post this on our page, but we have a GoFundMe for John, that I want. If you guys have an opportunity to go ahead and check it out, um, it's just any support always helps. So
yeah,
yeah,
thanks, man.
yeah, no problem.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you who already have taken a look at it and supported it or shared it with somebody else. It means a lot. So, and thank you, Dennison, for creating it. I can't
Yeah,
thank you enough for that.
yeah, of
So,
course.
yeah. Um, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll catch up with you next week. Boom.
Boom.